Hello and happy Monday, everyone. Happy Monday. Thank you so very much for tuning in to 98.3 FM, The Life. You're listening to Bacon Bits with Master Happiness. And of course, I'm your host, Marty Jalove. I come at you every single Monday night at 7 o'clock to talk about your job, your career, your vision made clear, the skills that you hone for the business that you own, the ups and downs, the smiles and frowns, where you're at, and where you're bound. And if you miss any of today's episode, tune in later in the week for the recording. It'll be anywhere you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple Music, etc. Or go to my YouTube channel. Just look for Bacon Bits Radio or Bacon Bits with Master Happiness. You're going to really love this episode. Today's a very, very special episode. It is part 6 of this 6-part episode we've been doing for a little more than 6 months. We've hit almost every month about building your dream team. And it started where we talked about recruitment, bringing people in. We've touched on communication. We've touched on problem solving, growing your employees, etc. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about legacy, the retirement and beyond. We're going to be talking about what happens when those employees get to that point in time where they say, I'm looking to retire. Even it's kind of similar to people just saying I want to leave the company, but we're going to lean more towards retirement. And I thought, who would be the perfect guest for this? Because there's some legalities here. We're going to touch on those, the positives, the negatives, the things you're supposed to say, the things you can't say. So we're going to touch on this. But the main feature here is that we're going to be talking about how you bring happiness in there and show how we treat those people just as good as when they're coming in as when they're leaving. We treat all these people as important parts of our business, they've helped our business grow. And so it's what's so important is just that. And we want to do this right. We want to do this with respect, and we want to do everything according to the law. We don't want to break any laws, but we really want to cherish those people who helped our business grow. So with that, the person I brought in was my returning guest, a good friend of mine that I think I only invited her on the show just so I can spend some time with her. She's always too busy to talk to me outside of the show. All right. So my friend Leslie Day from Day HR. So Leslie, there you are. Say hi to the world. Tell the world how they reach you, where they find you, and what makes you so darn special.
Oh my gosh. Well, Marty, thank you so much for having me. My name's Leslie Day, and I help small and middle-sized businesses with human resources, like the day-to-day issues that small businesses have with their people. And I've been doing this for many, many years, and I taught at DePaul University now for over 20 years to other HR professionals. So I know the company side of HR as well as understand the employee side. So you can reach me at my phone number is 630-251-3763. 630-251-3763. My email is LESLIE, Leslie, at dayhrconsulting.com. And my website also, dayhrconsulting.com.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so very much, Leslie. So to get us started, I just want to kind of read this little piece. Every business has those people who are on their way out. They want to leave for some reason. The folks who showed up early, stayed late, and knew where every skeleton was, every spare stapler was hidden. They know everything about the company. The ones who trained the new hires, calmed the chaos, and carried your values like a torch throughout the years. Those truly valued employees. When someone gives you decades of their working life, a sheet cake in the break room just doesn't seem like it's enough, right? Celebrate loudly for these people. Tell their stories, share their wins, the ones that they made possible. Invite people they mentored to speak. Why? Because how you honor those people, those who leave, show everyone who stays exactly how much they matter. In other words, if you honor those people who are leaving, the people who stay, they suddenly realize, yeah, they matter too. Recognition isn't a nice to have. It's the heartbeat of a happy workplace. Okay. Would you agree with that there, Leslie?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Marty. Yeah. Anytime you can recognize employees is a good time.
There you go. There you go. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about this and about how we recognize those people. And first, I want to share a little story, Leslie, and I've talked about this in other places. I've never retired. I'm never going to retire. I think I'll retire 5 or 6 years after I die. Okay, because I truly love what I do. But I have left companies. I've worked at companies for many years and left them. And I have been blessed in a way that the companies I worked for, I still can leave and look at them and seeing how they prospered, even beyond me being there, right? And I'm still celebrated. Like I can go visit some of the companies I've left, talk to the people, and they go, "My God, Marty, oh, it's so good to see you. Thank you," because they view me as somebody who helped them grow from the
Mhm.
foundation upwards. And even though I've left and they continue to grow, some people say, "Well, don't you have some sour grapes? Like, why did you leave?" And, "Oh, I left too soon and I can't believe they do this." I'm like, "No, I'm happy for what I was able to give to that company, and I'm happy for what I got out of that company." And I love walking by and seeing a company prosper because I know I was one of the first couple of people to lay those foundational bricks. I was the one who helped it grow. I have one company, it's fantastic. When I was there, they had probably about 12 locations, and now they're well over 70 locations. And what's beautiful about it, I was one, they still use the logo that I designed so many years ago. And it's just, it warms me a little bit to say, yeah, there's still a piece of me in that company.
Mhm.
And when I see them and I see some of the people, you either get some of the older people who've been there, like, "Marty, I haven't seen you in a long time," and you get some of the newer people. "So you're Marty, I heard about you," right? And so it's great to feel that way. And this is why this topic is so near and dear to my heart,
Mhm.
that the people who are leaving our companies, we have to treat them with that respect. We have to celebrate them for everything that they've done for us. And think about this, is that why not do that? Why not celebrate them? And this whole idea of a sheet cake, we say, "Hey, congratulations, thanks, goodbye," right? Everyone signed the card and now you're gone. No, give them a little bit more. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So, first off, Leslie, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. Is first off, uh, and this is because I want you as the HR expert to talk about this, is how or when do we as an employer, how can we talk about retirement? How do we bring it up? What is the right way to do this? Because there are so many things. We don't want to force people out. We don't want people to think we're pushing them out. Uh, and we want to follow the letter of
Mhm.
the law. So
Mhm.
how do we end up discussing that? What's the right way?
Well, such a great question, Marty, because companies mess this up all the time.
I'm
Sadly.
sure. Right.
Sadly. So, companies want a plan. And so they have people in jobs because they need work to do. And so they start to wonder when somebody gets older in age or closer to what they think might be some magical retirement date, which is no longer the case. 65 doesn't mean anything.
Exactly.
That's simply the eligibility date for Medicare. But 67 and something is where somebody then starts to get Social Security.
Okay.
So they're not, going to be able to leave in that window if they don't have some other kind of something planned. So
Right.
thinking 65 is such a historical thought.
Sure.
But companies need to realize that when the employee quits, and that is a retirement unless there's a pension plan. When an employee quits, that's them saying they're leaving the business. If they want to call it retirement, the company should never call it retirement for
Okay.
them.
Right. Right. Okay.
That would be, well, thoughtless in a way, right? You said you're never retiring,
Yeah.
but you might have been retiring in your mind from that company
Sure. Yeah.
and looking at what else you want to do next. It could be a career change. It could be just with another company. So we want to make sure that we don't in any way have that employee feel that we brought up and we're suggesting that they leave. That is an exposure for age discrimination
Okay.
claims and allegations.
Right, right. Okay, I love this. You know what, Leslie, I'm going to jump right into the bacon here. So often on some of the previous shows, what happened is I get to the bacon of the show too late, and all of a sudden we're like, "Oh, we're 15 minutes. We got to run through this." Okay, so for those of you who've never tuned into the show, listen to this. You're going to really enjoy this show because there are few people who are as educated on the subject matter as Leslie is, and so she's the person that is probably the HR department for, I'm going to say, hundreds of small companies throughout this area because she runs this independent place. So, and a company doesn't have to hire an HR department. They've got her expertise, and this is truly expertise. So, when I talk about things like this that touch on the legalities of companies, I'm going to always lean on Leslie. And she has just been a dear friend, always willing to help in every regard. So, thank you for that, Leslie. All right. So,
You
the
too, Marty.
You're more than welcome. So the reason the show is called Bacon Bits is because I truly believe everything bacon touches becomes a little bit better, right? We can talk about the food that we put bacon on. I sprinkle a little bit of bacon on the salad. I wrap fillets with a strip of bacon just to make everything a little bit better. Can't have a BLT without bacon. Who wants to eat an LT, right? Okay, so bacon becomes a little bit better. But of course, we are not talking about the bacon for chewing. Do you know what it is, Leslie? No. Oh, Leslie, we're not talking about the bacon for chewing. We're talking about the bacon for doing.
Well,
Okay.
okay, there you go.
So it's the acronym BACON, which we use as a loose outline for the show. This is just a little bit of what we're going to be talking about. But I love a good tangent as most other people. So if we scatter or scoot away from the BACON, that's okay. It'll be a fun show. So I want you to really pay attention. All right. So today's bacon, as we talk about a smooth transition, is going to be begin early, and we'll both talk about this whole idea of what beginning early means. We'll talk about the legalities of it as well as the right way to do this. Okay, A is going to be assign a successor, and I think this is important for the company to continue to grow, but it also makes people who are feeling like they want to retire. It gives them some necessity. It still makes them feel needed. Okay, C is going to be capture the knowledge. All right. I have worked with companies, and I'm sure you have, Leslie, that people go and then everyone's like, where is this? Where is this? Do you have this? Right. And everyone's like, well, only Bob knew where that was. Right. So we need to we have to come up with a way of capturing that knowledge. O is open the communication. And that is not only while the person is working there, but maybe even have a way of continuing that communication afterwards. Okay. It's good for the company. It's good for the person. All right. And that ties into N, which is nurture that relationship. And it cannot be, if you want a successful company, I truly, truly believe this, that this happiness part, where I always tell people, happy employees create happy customers. Okay. And you can't say that we help make sure our employees are happy if you drop the ball when someone retires. We have to hold on to those people, that knowledge, that love that they poured into the company, everything they did to help the company grow. We want to continue with that. So we want to continue to nurture that relationship. So let's just jump right into this first part, Leslie. And I know, this is the coolest part about this whole thing is Leslie is one of those people who I'm all emotion and like, this is so fun and everything is lovely. And look at, rain brings us rainbows. So that's why I'm happy. And Leslie's like, Marty, you can't say that. You have to say this, do it this way. So Leslie is the bare bones that this is what you've got to do. And so she came in the studio with a list of things to say, if you want a great company, if you want to be a truly happy company, if you want to be the company that people long to work for, there are a great list of things that you should be offering. And we're going to get into that. And I want you to keep that list to the side, because if some of those things are pertinent to what we're talking about, let's bring them up. Okay. Let's not wait to the show and just list everything. Okay. So B is begin early. And I'm going to talk a little bit because I know you're going to talk more intelligently than me. So I'm going to say something here is I have always said from the beginning that no matter what the age of the employee, I don't care. All right. No matter what the employee does, whether they are the person working on an assembly line or they're the purchasing, their sales, whatever they do, I don't care. They're an employee. They're an important cog in the machine. Everyone is important. So I teach my leaders and I teach the owners of the company, have open conversations to talk about what is the vision or the ultimate goal for the company. But then also talk to all the employees. Start with the interview process about what is your vision? Where do you see yourself in 5 years, in 10 years? Okay. And then me as a leader, what I like to do is say, let me share some of my goals, some of my personal vision, where I want to be in 5 or 10 years. Because if I can open up to these people and share what I'm looking to do, it shows I have some vulnerability. And I'm saying, I'm not afraid to admit this is what I want to do. I would like in 10 years to have enough money to buy a boat. I want a summer home, right? I want to do something. I want to move out of this department and take over another department. Whatever it is, this is what I want. And then go to the employee. What is it you want? Where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years? And then say, I'll tell you what, let's make a deal here. I will help you and all I want you to do is help me. And together, if we can make our goals and our dreams come true, we can make the company's vision come true. And I think having that conversation, regardless of age, regardless of tenure, right, I think is important, because you don't want to have that conversation. You tell me, where somebody suddenly turns 60 and you're like, hey, it's time for us to have that conversation about retirement, right?
Not what I would recommend.
No, exactly. So what do you feel about that? What do you feel about what I explained about talking about individual vision and goals? Does that work? Is that a good thing in your eyes?
Oh, yes. Having a partnership with your boss, or if you're at a smaller company, the owner of the company, is so critical for both sides to know that, one, they're appreciated, right?
Yes.
That the effort and the details that they worry about are not lost. But to your point, many people don't plan.
Right.
So
right.
I'm talking about having conversations with folks early on. 50s is, almost too late in many circumstances.
Okay.
To say what do I want to do possibly in retirement, and what's it going to cost? What am I going to need to have in terms of funds, or when will I have my insurance covered? Things like that are so pertinent when there's decisions about retirement. And a lot of employees can either naively think that they'll just stay where they're at and they'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
So many folks, don't have money put away, and they think, well, Social Security, is going to be enough to cover me. And then when they see, they learn how much Social Security might be for them.
Right.
And they realize that there's increasing costs. They're like, oh my heavens, I can't even pay my mortgage with that. So planning on things like, have you thought about having your house paid off? That might be something that the owner would say, I'm going to make sure I have my house paid off so that I can use whatever retirement benefits I get from the government to live on, rather than to give it to a bank or someplace that has my mortgage.
I love that. You know what? It reminds me of something that one of the companies I worked for, when the president of the company, it was so cool, because it was a decent sized company. I think in that location, which I worked at the headquarters, there's got to have been about 50 employees. And then there were branches where they had other employees. But the president always went out of his way to come and talk to me. Right. And I loved it. It was a great conversation we always had. And I remember him having the conversation about when we started a 401k program. And he looked at me and goes, are you maxing out how much you're putting in there? And I'm like, nah, I'm putting in the bare minimum. And he goes, why aren't you maxing this out? Right. And he had just the conversation as a friend. And it was the first time that somebody actually talked to me about, you have to save for retirement. You have to save for the future. What are you doing? What's going to happen if this? What's going to happen here? And it was really interesting, because just having that conversation made me feel like he was the president, the owner, the founder of the company, and he truly cared about me. Right. It was more, I wasn't just an employee. I was part of the family, and he wanted to make sure that I succeeded long after I left the company.
And the company that matches that contribution is going to be having more funds that they fork out too. So it wasn't, it was more money that his business or her business was going to be paying as well. So, I mean, companies offer benefits maybe to a certain extent because the competition does, or they feel like they should.
Right.
But a really good top manager should look at the benefits as a recruiting and retention tool.
Right.
Having it so that they are for employees in multiple age groups, and that we weight the amount of monies the company puts towards those benefits, so that it helps the single person, the middle age with kids, and then the up and coming retiree or leaving the organization. What's next?
So, all right. So this is good. This is the perfect question that's ideal for you. Is, let's say the company is going to have those regular conversations about 401k, because they've got new employees, and we're going to talk about it on a regular basis. And we've got people of different ages. Okay. Obviously, if I'm going to do that, and let's say my company grew that I actually had employees, let alone a number of employees. Before I had that conversation, I would say, you know what, I'm not going to give this conversation. I'm going to have Leslie come in and give this conversation, right? How do you address it when you've got people, let's say you've got some people who are in their 20s, some people in their 30s, you got some people in their 50s and 60s. How do you address it and talk about those kind of benefits, even if it's just 401k, but something else, some type of a savings plan like that? How do you address it so that everyone at the different ages kind of understands?
Well, if a person stays at a company their whole career, then they would be having that money go for their retirement, quote
Sure.
unquote. But lots of employees move from company to company. So it's really like a guaranteed, in some cases, no tax savings plan.
Right.
And you need to have your butt covered for when stuff happens, right? Things that you don't expect. So a 401k is not just a retirement plan, it's a savings plan.
Okay.
And the company is contributing a certain percentage of what you give, and called the best investment, the best savings, the best way you could put money to your own best use there.
I like
But
it.
it also involves giving up some of the little creature comfort things that we would love to do, right?
Sure.
And
Sure.
kicking the can down the road is so easy. And then there's employees, who might have seen that their parents struggled or their grandparents, and they're more likely to put money into a 401k when they're small, because with compound interest and all of that, a small amount when you're younger can turn into like a mountain of money.
Right. Right.
And waiting until you're in your 50s and 60s to start thinking about it puts you way behind the eight ball
Right.
in
Right.
terms of now having to put so much more in order to have some kind of a perceived lifestyle. But
Oh.
again, having advice, financial advice, the company 401k has advisors. And part of that role is that those people are supposed to be giving free assistance and advice to your employees.
Wonderful.
Many
Right.
companies don't mention it too much, or the financial advisor is easy about not calling you except for once a year and
Oh,
telling you, okay, what are you going to do with the plan for next year? But they should be offering to say, okay, if you want to do these kind of things, let's talk about giving up that extra two coffees. Two
right. Right.
coffees
Yeah.
a week
Yeah.
or something.
Right.
Because you can always change your mind. The thing that's so nice about 401ks is you can change your contribution amount any pay period. You can put an extra $50 in there. Oop, what was I doing? A month later, you can take it back out. You can change your mind multiple times. It's not like any other benefit
Gotcha.
that you have that ability to really personalize it. And
Okay.
bonuses, I will say, companies that give bonuses, that is such a great way to have that money go into their 401k,
Right.
because it's
Right.
like, it's not
It's found money.
exactly
Yeah.
perfect way to say it.
Right. Right. So how do you explain the benefits? I guess, like you had said, 50 is too late to start. But let's say it's a person in their 50s, 55, and they just started at this company and they have a 401k.
Mhm.
How do you make sure that you're not saying anything wrong? I'm gonna really push on this for you. But how do you address that with those people about when they're like, I don't know if I should be in the 401k?
Mhm.
What would you end up telling some?
Well, I'd say that we have money that we would really like to give you. Please let us give it to you.
Wow, I
Um,
love that.
right.
Yes.
Especially to whatever the match of percentage is, 4% or whatever, where the match continues to add in. I think that, especially sadly, I will say women are
Uh-huh.
much less likely to give up the things that they want to spend their money on day to day, and put it into a 401k. Often there's a belief that, well, if I put it in there, I can't get it.
Right.
And so we want to weigh personal saving with a 401k so that you have the emergency money. They've just modified 401ks in the last year to allow for some emergency withdrawals,
Good. Good.
thank heavens. But the important thing is that the employee think of this throughout their career
Right.
time, if possible. But if somebody was to lose their job in their 40s, it's very possible they're going to drain that money from their
Sure.
401k in order to cover their
Their living
mortgage and their
expenses, right,
car
yeah,
or whatever until they get their next opportunity. So we have to realize that those funds can get depleted for other needs as well. But then you're saying, okay, I'm taking this money out, but talk to your spouse. Okay, we're going to have to double up now in order to catch back up.
Right, right. So I like this whole idea. B was in our bacon today was begin early, and I think this is perfect because I really want to make sure that we don't make somebody who's at that point where they're contemplating retirement. We never want to make it sound like we're trying to push them out. We never want to do that, and so it shouldn't be just begin early. It should be begin early and often. All right, because we should constantly be talking about all those types of benefits and helping them save for the future and talking about this kind of things of what's your goals, what's your 5-year plan, what's your 10-year plan. Never asking, are you looking to retire? No, just asking in 10 years, where do you see yourself? And if they bring up the idea, well, in 10 years, I really think I'm going to be retired. I'm hoping in 10 years, I'll be on a lake fishing somewhere, right? Then you say, okay, well, let's kind of work towards that. What do we need to do? Okay, because we want to make these transitions smooth for everyone involved and understand also that if somebody goes, I'm contemplating, like I would love to be sitting on the lake fishing or golfing in 10 years instead of working. That's not them giving notice. That is them saying that's my wish. That is my goal. Right. So let's see how this happens, or what happens in 5 years, what happens in 7 years. Maybe the person decided to retire earlier. Maybe they decided, I'm not ready to retire.
Mhm.
Okay. So I think the more we have those conversations and that we normalize those conversations, not just with those people, but it's every employee. So
Mhm.
it's the normal, it's part of the culture of our company is we have open communications about everyone's individual vision. And I think is that the safest way? First off, I think it's the right way to treat all the employees, but I want to make sure that we're always following the letter of the law. And I never want any employee to feel like they're being nudged out.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of it depends too on the individual. There could be somebody who's an outstanding employee in a sales role, and the person who's in management is terrified that they're going to leave.
Right. Yeah.
Or it could be reversely, somebody who's kind of been marginal for a long time. The company is going to kind of tread water with them moving forward, with the hope that maybe they're going to make a decision to move on.
Right. Right.
But that's where the risk is with those kind of individuals. So, we all wish that by the time we get to retirement, we're healthy.
Yep.
But that's not the case. It could
No,
be
not
that
all the time.
employee is not in the best of health, or their spouse or their family has some issues that they're having to manage as well. So there's many things that can pull a person off their plan. But to your point, I think that a caring manager would say, look, you do a great job here. I am your partner here.
There you go.
When you start thinking about what you want to do in 5 years or 10 years, 15 years, let me know so that I can keep my eyes open, work
on it together.
Worry about your, how to position your job. But I think the conversation about a person leaving would not necessarily ever be brought up by the company.
I agree. Okay.
Ever.
That's good. That's a great rule of thought there.
And about all you can really say is that, if you do think that you're going to leave, please give me as much time
I love that.
and notice as possible, because what you do here is so important. And we want to, as you mentioned, Marty, transfer the knowledge.
Yep.
Right? We got to know where the paper clips are, or
There you go.
that critical password, for that
Right.
client.
Exactly.
We have to make sure that we have an opportunity to train folks to do what you're doing.
So that gets us to jump right into this. And I'm looking at it's almost about in the hour, but I want to introduce the letter A is assign a successor. And I just want to jump in this a little bit, and then we're going to take a little break and then just finish up with this one. Assigning the successor, again, just like when we talked about how we talk to all employees the same. I truly believe that whether you call it a successor or a backup, the second person in charge, whatever it is, I drive home the idea that if I was going to teach you a skill, Leslie, the best way for you to learn it is to teach someone else, right? And so everyone, I truly believe, for a company to be successful is everyone should have a backup, right? And it's not to say that backup is just sitting there waiting to fill in, but what happens is maybe the one person is the backup for 3 other people at this point in time, right? And so if the person takes a day off, goes on vacation, there's somebody to back them up. And I think if we continue to do this early, again, going back to begin early, we do this. Assigning a successor is not saying, hey, it looks like you're going to be retiring. So we need to start training someone else. We should be always training someone else. I loved it. My attitude early on, and I don't know where I got it from, if it must have been some boss of mine who helped me understand this, was I was always interested in training someone on something I could do. Once I got to that point where I was like, I've mastered this 80% of the way or more,
Mhm.
let me train someone else because I want to do something else. I want
Mhm.
to move to the next level.
Mhm.
So I was always interested in training someone and making sure that they were really good at it so I didn't have to take a step backwards.
Mhm.
Okay. And so I think if part of the culture of the company was we are a learning and training company, we're the type of company who's constantly helping each other grow. Whether I teach you a bunch of stuff and then you end up leaving, whether I teach you the stuff and I end up leaving, it doesn't matter. We are constantly learning, growing, and teaching each other so that
Mhm.
we all grow together. The goal has got to be that we build better employees. Okay. We want to create employees so that when they leave, they're happy with the time they spent there. There's nothing worse. I mean, you've probably run into people who've said, yeah, I gave that company 5 years, 10 years, 30 years of my life, and they gave me nothing. I was like, wow, why are you talking about it now? Why weren't you talking about it while you were working there? Okay. I look back at every company I ever worked at and saying, I learned so much there. I grew there. And some people are like, yeah, you just got lucky. No, I made it happen. Okay. And I think that what ends up happening here is that companies need to create as part of their culture, we are a learning, teaching company. All right. And that what that does is the people, the employees who are all about personal growth want to stay at a company like that. They're like, I'm growing and learning something new. The companies, they're sending me to school, etc. All that kind of stuff is really good. So I want to get your feedback, but we have to take a momentary break to talk about some of the other shows and some of the people we try to help with this radio station. So please stay tuned and please come back because we're going to hear some gems, some golden wisdom from Leslie Day from Day HR. So hold on 1 second. And we are back. We're back. Thank you so very much for staying tuned in to 98.3 FM, The Life. You're listening to Bacon Bits with Master Happiness. Today's an exciting episode. This is part 6 of this 6-part series we've been doing. It's been a few months we've been doing this one episode a month for more than 6 months. We skipped a few, but we've been talking about how do you build a dream team. So if you're a small company, if you work for a company, if you're a manager, if you started a company, this is all about building that dream team. We started about how you recruit, how you onboard, how you handle conflicts, how you help these people grow, everything. We've been touching on everything. And today we're talking about part 6, the legacy, retirement, and beyond. And like I said, it was really interesting. Part 2 was Leslie when we talked about onboarding. And now it's part 6. We've been talking now about this retirement and beyond. And of course, I brought Leslie Day back, the HR guru, right? If you got any questions on HR, legality or just the procedures, the proper way to do things, she's the person to talk to. So we'll give you more information about her in a minute. But so far, we've been talking about the bacon. Today was B is begin early. A is going to be assign a successor. C is capture the knowledge, which we're going to kind of tie in a little bit with A still. O is open the communication, and N is nurture the relationship. So I talked a little bit about what I meant by A is assign a successor. And that is that every employee you have there should have a backup. Someone else should know how to do this because you never know. It's not just about retirement. People leave for other reasons. People leave purposefully, accidentally, etc. And we want to make sure that if they decide to leave, we still want to make it a comfortable way to leave. We don't want them to leave because they hate us. We want to continue to expand that friendship and that family feeling that we want to celebrate when people leave. But we also want to protect the company by having backups. So I'm going to throw it back by you, Leslie. You remember kind of the stuff I said before the break. Fill in a little bit more on what you think about assigning a successor. What does that mean to you? Okay, as well as we're going to throw in a little of the C, which is capture the knowledge, which is part of all of it. But go ahead.
Yeah, the successor or that word comes from what we call it is succession planning.
Yep.
Which is a very common and a lot of money and effort goes into larger corporations, having there be several years worth of development for an individual to step into like a manager, a vice president role. However, any individual at your company could leave. As you mentioned, it could be an emergency.
Sure.
So we always want to have that person backed up And that's as good a word as any.
Right.
I would not call that having a successor. I would call that a backup person,
Yeah.
having trained somebody who can, cover for the last minute, death in a family or illness. When we start talking about retirement, the conversation that a company would have would be, I want to make sure that we have our company covered, that your information, is shared, as you mentioned, going on to the C word. But having knowledge transfer and an opportunity for us to groom a person to come into your role if and when you leave the company is critical. And I want you to know that you can leave having a great feeling about how
Yeah.
you have transitioned your knowledge, made the best of that like a springboard onto what's next. And that we also, as a business, have covered all of our needs and had it so that we can move forward strongly after you leave the organization. And Marty, as you said, expand our business, continue to grow, have our customers feel fully satisfied, and that there's not a gap that occurs because that individual's organization, if we can't, it's not cheap to do this.
Yeah.
And companies, often have some duplicated effort.
Right.
And that can be expensive, but it's to a great extent a cover your ass kind of a thing.
Yeah.
You have to realize, just like insurance, that there are things you just have to pay for, or you're going to find yourself.
Correct. I agree with you there. So I like this idea, and I want to make sure that we always drive home. The reason I kept talking about leaning towards backup was because it's got to be a norm in the business. It's not like suddenly we're going to go, oh, Bob's 65. We should start talking. Ask him about retirement. We don't want to do that. I love this because as I'm saying it, Leslie's shaking her head. Please don't do that. Right. What happens is if it's part of our normal business that everyone is backed up and we're always talking about it and we're saying, you might decide to leave. You might be promoted. So we want to make sure people can fill in that spot. If they can't fill in, nobody can do what you do, you can never leave. Right. And so it's really important.
Indispensable.
Right. And so when we get to the point where the employee comes to us and says, hey, the more I've been thinking about it, I'm thinking in the next few years, I'm going to contemplate retirement. Awesome. Then now let's have the conversation about a successor. Let's start working this through. Because I want to make sure, I'm going to tell them, I want to make sure that when you leave here, your legacy is the company didn't fall apart because you left.
And the timing still needs to be on the employees.
Yes.
So that's not like suddenly now they have given up any kind of leverage, in this circumstance. Just say, I am thinking about this with my wife. I wanted to let you know I'm not ready to go.
Yeah.
And then that's where the company will say, gotcha.
Right.
We can never promise somebody's going to be an employee next year. You could say, I appreciate you letting me know. Let's keep talking about this so we can have some of your folks do some of the, shadow you and some of the work that you're doing, things like that, so that we can inch forward here.
There you go.
So that when you're ready to do that, you come and you tell me.
Gotcha. All right. So I want to jump into this as we're looking, we just got finished saying, hey, we still got a lot of letters to go and we're running out of time.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to jump into the C is capture the knowledge. And I think that still a lot of companies, when they're creating procedures manuals or things like that, they don't put enough effort into it. I see so many people, yeah, we did it. We started it. And then we put it on the shelf and no one ever looks at it. It's the same with what we're always talking about, a mission statement or vision statement. We wrote it, we hang it on the wall somewhere. No one's read it in 10 years. Okay. So the procedures manual, and I've talked about it at other shows, and in the write-up, the recording of this, I'm going to put a link to a procedures manual, the way to write a procedures manual that I think, and it's multiple steps. It's kind of based on the phone game that if we don't write it down, then it's going to be, well, Leslie told me this and she heard it from Sarah and Sarah heard it from Bob. And before you know it, that's not what we're supposed to do. So we've got to keep it going, and we have to know that the procedures are always evolving. They're not set in stone, and this is the only way we do this. We have to give some ownership to it. So when we have someone leaving at that point, the ownership of that knowledge is combined, it's shared, let's say, between the person who's leaving and the new person. The new person has always got to be saying, can you explain that again so I understand why we're doing this, not only how we're doing this? And I always lean towards the person learning is the one who's writing the procedure. And the person who's teaching reads it and goes, no, that's not what I said. Okay. But anyway, it's a combination. This is so very important. And it's more important that we don't wait until that point in time to say, maybe we should write it down. Again, just like we said, begin early, uh, assign successors or assign backups. This capturing the knowledge has got to be a regular day-to-day thing. It's got to be part of the company culture, part of what we do on a regular basis.
Mhm.
Okay. So I just want to get into this because I know you got a list of some stuff, and I want to talk on this stuff.
Mhm.
In the end, and I'm going to rifle through these quickly because I want to dig into some of the things you talked about. O is open communication, and what I mean by that is if Ralph is retiring in the next year, let's not hide it. Let's get everyone involved in it. Let's make sure our customers know it. Let's make sure the employees know it. We're not pushing Ralph out. What we're doing is we're making sure the transition is right. Somebody might go, oh, you know what? I always talk to Ralph about this. Who am I going to be talking about? There are little things like that that we might not know about. We want to make sure the customers who always say, oh, well, I only talk to Ralph. Well, how do we pass it along to the next person? So we've got open communication about it because it's not anything that we are embarrassed about. It's nothing that we're scared about. What we're doing is we're celebrating that Ralph is leaving. All right. And we want to grab that knowledge from Ralph. We want like this is going to be a good transition. And Ralph is not, we're not exiling Ralph. Ralph is always going to be part of the family. Ralph is part of who we are. Okay. One of the companies I work for, man, I haven't worked for the company in literally over 25 years.
Mhm.
And I am still invited to their company parties.
Mhm.
All right. And so that's the whole part of it is you want employees like that when Ralph leaves, he knows he can pop back in and say hi
Mhm.
to people.
We want to make sure that Ralph is comfortable with you sharing that information.
Certainly.
So perhaps there's a time window
Oh,
where
I
we
like
keep
that.
it tight
Okay.
until it's say, okay, well, you've got like these customers, that love you. Okay, we're going to have to, how do Ralph, do you have any ideas
Yes.
on how we can start having them, open their thoughts to that somebody else maybe in this universe should help them. But
Beautiful. See, this is why I brought you on. You
yeah.
bring all those little things. You heard something, you're like, oh, Marty, let's do this too. Because you're absolutely right. We want to protect their privacy.
And when they retire, they're still part of the family.
Yes.
And so having them, as you said, invited to the company picnic every time. And there's going to be some retirees that are in there with, wheelchairs,
Yeah.
because they look forward to hearing all the old stories that, told
Right.
again.
Right.
And also if you have a company newsletter that you have quarterly, or make sure that the email is created, even though the person's gone, create an email so that retiree can get that newsletter and see what's going on in the business. And because, that's part of their identity was the time they spent and the pride they have in having,
Definitely.
supported, as you said, the organization prosper. So, to have them continue shows the employees that are still there,
Yes.
your commitment to them in the long haul.
Right. I wanted to emphasize that it's a double-sided coin there. Number one is it's the right thing to do. You're celebrating those people who helped build the company. That's one side. The other side is you're also demonstrating to the people who are there, this is another reason why you want to stay here. This is another reason why you want to help us grow, because this is how we treat our family.
Mhm.
And I think that's what's really important. So I love what you added about opening the communication is let's protect their privacy and do it when the time is right.
Mhm.
Okay. And so finally, that N is going to be nurture the relationship. And remembering that the last day, we're not saying goodbye and farewell forever. Hopefully, what happens is it continues, because there are going to be things, as much as we plan for succession, as much as we did all this kind of stuff, there's going to be some times where we're like, hey, Ralph, when we did this, do you remember blah, blah, blah? Right. And I have got some companies that I end up getting that call back.
Mhm.
Do you remember what this was when you guys did it back then? What did you do? And I get those calls, and it makes you feel important. It makes you feel needed and necessary. And I
Yeah.
think we want to do that. And that helps the person as well as the company.
Yeah, the employee who wants to have that importance of being
Yes.
communicated. But then there's other employees who would be like, no, man, I'm not getting paid for it. Or
Yeah.
my wife would beat my head, on the table if,
Right.
if she knew that, are like, no, I'm sorry, but that's not going to be something that works for me.
Right. Right.
But, what we always have to do is personalize
Yep.
each person, each individual's preference.
Sure.
When we're looking at things that we want to do to support them, we
Right.
don't want to force something on them that is not working.
Correct. I love this.
Mm.
And let's just touch on this, that when that person retires, remember, it's not necessarily that they're leaving forever. It could be, hey, I would love a part-time job.
Mhm.
I would even love, let me just come in one day a week.
Mhm.
Okay. Or let me be a consultant.
Mhm.
Anything like that. Just
We have a name for that. It's called phased retirement.
I love it.
And, larger organizations sometimes have the ability to have somebody either, reduce their hours, go into a lesser stressful or more conducive role to whatever they would like to do. Um, Pay often is an issue, and companies don't necessarily have to cut somebody's pay
Right.
if they're going into another position, as long as they are, have documented what the rationale for that is. It wasn't that we were paying others improperly. And having a title, that might say, this person is the knowledge transfer customer service
I like
person,
it. Right. Right.
versus having it be that they're just like all the other customer service.
Yeah.
As
I like it. Well,
Mhm.
so I'll tell you what, Leslie, we went through the bacon. So we went through all of this. We talked about beginning early on every single thing we do. I think it's when I say begin early, I really want to drive home. It's not about concentrating on the person who's retiring. It's talking about the culture for the entire company. We begin early. We treat everyone the same. We look upon this. We ask everyone what their vision is for the future, what their 5-year plan, their 10-year plan. It's good for us, the company, and it shows the employee that we care. What will happen is eventually, when those people are getting to the point in time where they're contemplating retirement, you get to understand this early on. And what we're going to work on with that is according to every, with working with every employee, leaders, supervisors, the front line, whatever, is there some redundancy? Is there some backup to everyone? Because if we start that ball rolling, when that person goes, I'm thinking of retiring, then we can open up to the conversation of how do we build a succession plan? How do we find that person? Who's the person that you think would work the best? Let's see. I got Jerry here, Ralph, that loves what you were doing, and maybe that's the right person. We do that. We open up the communication where we start talking about as we're passing that knowledge on, and then we start
Mhm.
how we end up doing it. But the most important thing is continue to nurture that relationship.
And promotion opportunities.
Oh my
The
God, yes.
the
Yeah.
longer that you have an opportunity for current employees to see if they could, grow into that job. So many companies, sadly, look outside the
Right.
organization
Yeah.
rather than put in the time to develop some folks.
Right. And so what we have talked about for all the 5 other segments of this 6-part series about building the dream team have always talked about that. Building something wonderful here, having those communications where we're recruiting, so we know we're pulling in the right people, onboarding them so that they know what to expect, and then deliver on what you promised. Right? We talked about communication and all this, and this is that last piece that I wanted to touch on, and that was this retirement. So Leslie, I want to dig into this list that you have. And I don't know if
Okay.
we have enough time. We'll probably need a whole other hour
It'll-
about a few of the things, but I'm gonna ask you to detail it a little. A few of the things that companies who really care about their employees, who want to create a happier environment that will attract great employees. These are some of the things we can offer,
Mhm.
especially that will be beneficial for those employees who are retiring. So
Yeah.
give us a list. Give us a
Yeah,
few of
I
these.
think many times companies worry about those things that cost money, and a couple of the things that I'm going to go through here have no cost.
Beautiful.
And just to pick one or two, especially one of the more unique ones, is such a clear message to employees that you do care, that you're not just given the same old 401k match and
Yeah.
life insurance or something like that. So, because Marty said that, that part of what we were going to talk about here, I did create a little list, and I'm just going to run through them real quickly. If anyone listening here, if even one of these ideas spurs something that you go, I can do that. Our whole time here today was worth it.
Yes. There you go.
So, a couple of things Marty's already talked about: transferring knowledge. I mentioned instead of just inviting them to company events, having retirees get a special email so that they can get the newsletter or the communications. Because, when somebody retires, their email is cut off.
Right.
You could create a transition email for them so that they can get notified, or use their personal home email so that that's in all the notices, because they're still part of the team.
Yeah, they want to know what's going on.
They
Right.
want to know what's going on. So, mentioning 401k match is a little on the boring side. Financial planning is often available, but companies so rarely take the time to make employees feel like that they should do it and follow up. And have you had your financial planning yet? We have our 401k investment advisor. We want everyone to talk to him or her this year. Have you talked to that person? Many companies, yeah, we have this advisor, call them. Here's the number if you want. I would really push that, because planning for your retirement, knowing that there's things in the future you cannot control, the best you can do is try to plan, and then stuff's still going to happen.
Right. I think along with that is, you can't view that as something on my list that I just checked off. Yeah, we offered that. I think it's got to be true to you and say, I want to help these people. I want my employees to understand it. Take it a step further. Don't just do it because somebody said, yeah, this is a good Me Too thing, and we're just going to check it off the box.
Or a financial planner who simply wants to talk to you about your risk tolerance and how to invest the money, rather than, well, what are you thinking you want to do in 5-10 years?
Right.
I like to always talk to employees about mortgage payoff. That it's so easy when we get mortgages that we get the 30-year mortgage. And to get a 30-year mortgage when you're 50, it's like, how am I going to retire if I still have half of my mortgage on my home? I'll have to leave my home if I retire.
Right.
So that is a critical component. Or if somebody is still renting, thinking, okay, well, am I going to keep renting while I'm, retired? Maybe we should buy something and try to get some value that could give us some alleviation for that. I think having some healthy living and exercise stipends where the company can pay for, like the exercise fitness area, or buying a treadmill for your house, or,
a gym membership,
Calm software,
that's right. Yeah.
Things like that. The other thing that I see is a huge hole, and I was always told in HR we could never advise employees about Social Security or Medicare, because it's not our policy.
Well, hold on. I just want to jump back really quick when you talked about the health. The idea that when you just think about it, that just pays off more. The healthier my employees are, the less time they're going to take off. So why not introduce it? Why not help them? I'd rather do the preventative than paying for it after.
And often I hear companies validate the cost of that by saying it helps on their health insurance.
Oh, there you go.
But really what it does, it creates healthy employees for the duration of their life. If you get used to doing, lifting weights just a little bit as you get older, that's the best thing we can do to keep our bones strong.
Right.
Things like that, going and walking after dinner.
Yep.
It's a habit. If you can start it early, and that's when I get to debrief my spouse on all the weird stuff that happened this week, things like that. The other thing that I find is a big missing is that there is a issue with joining and transitioning from your group health insurance onto Medicare.
Okay.
And depending on the size of the company, there's a primary, when somebody becomes eligible for Medicare at 65, they are supposed to register at 65. And I've told several employees, please register for Social Security. And they say, no, I'm continuing on my company's health insurance. I said, no, that they just want to know that you're there.
Right.
But so register with Medicare, because if you are at a company that has more than 20 employees, 20 or more, the company insurance is still primary, meaning that they're going to pay your bill first, the company insurance.
Okay.
And then anything left over then could roll back and have Medicare.
Gotcha.
But if you're at a smaller company, less than 20 employees, Medicare is primary. You have to get registered. And that's what a Part D notice is, that smaller companies are supposed to be giving their employees about how this Medicare transition, especially with prescription drugs, is going to get.
Okay.
So a smaller company, Medicare is primary, meaning all the bills would go to Medicare first, and then the company insurance would only pay with any residual or left over.
Right.
So now the company premium for that policy is.
Sure.
But I think at Concierge, they have very, very nice services. I know that I went to Ela Township when I was retiring to understand what's Medicare going to cost. What are the options that I have for Medicare?
Okay.
How should I build that? And there are folks at either the county level or different levels, places in the community here who are trained on how to help people learn about Medicare and
Beautiful.
Social Security.
Right.
That's free. You could have them come to your company for
Oh,
free.
that would be awesome, wouldn't it? Sure.
I like the idea of sabbaticals. So if you have a high seniority person, having them go for a month someplace
Wow.
is kind of like a retirement test. Honey, what would we do for a whole month? Maybe you go and you do something that's true to your heart. Maybe you sit there and pretend to say, okay, what would we do in retirement? I think sabbaticals are great. I like having the employees have access to the company travel agency.
Oh,
That
that's
they
nice.
could then
Sure.
get somebody to help them with, I've always wanted to go to Italy. What do you recommend? Oh my heavens, we have these packages. So having, especially if they have dealt with the travel agency because they themselves traveled on business, having that continuity would just be very helpful. Of course, there's lots of senior discounts with organizations like AARP. And then you mentioned about the retirement party or the retirement gift. I think, on the way out the door, having some kind of a cheesy, like you said, the sheet cake. The ones that I have seen that were handled so beautifully was where the executive took the time to go out and say, what was it what did you call the guy, Ralph?
Ralph.
What was Ralph good at? What are the things that were just so peculiar and fun about Ralph? So when the executive was talking to the group about Ralph is leaving us, and here's some of the things that we found so extraordinary about Ralph, and went through personalized comments about the things that he had done so well. I mean, that's when people start crying. Right?
Sure. And I like the idea of adding in, like I said earlier, was the people that Ralph mentored. Let them step up and say, the reason I'm in this position now is because I learned this from Ralph. So Ralph really steps away going, I'm glad that the CEO is proud of me, but also these other people, I helped them grow.
And Ralph might say, I learned it from Joe Schmo, who now is in his 90s and living in Florida, and I still hear and get a Christmas card from him.
Nice. There you go. Beautiful.
So that the circle is kind of brought around. But I think having the experience of them leaving the organization thought through, planned, exciting, rather than just thrown together by some assistant in the HR department.
I agree.
Is so important.
I agree. Excellent. You know what, Leslie, we are like out of time now. So this was perfect. You did awesome. I just want to do a quick wrap up, and I want you to see if you throw in one last line here. Is the bacon we talked about today was begin early, assign a successor, capture the knowledge, open communication, and nurture the relationship. And I think what's most important, the thing that I think we drove home that we agree on, is you have to make this the norm. It's not just, hey, Ralph is retiring, let's do this. It can't be like that. This has got to be part of your culture. We do this with everyone. We begin early. We talk about everyone's vision. We talk about what they want to do in 5 years, 10 years, where they see themselves. That doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen. It's just at that moment, this is what I see. This is what I hope. This is what I dream. We talk about capturing the knowledge from everyone. You know how to do this. Let's write it down so that in case you want to take a vacation, we can still get that done. We talk about the succession plan. It starts out with everyone needs a backup. And we wait to that moment where one day Ralph says, I'm contemplating retirement. It's not like, let's push him out the door now. Now it's let's make this a gentle transition. Okay, and what's best for Ralph and what's best for the company, what's best for the employees, etc. Okay, so I think the whole idea is make this part of the culture of the company. This is how we treat everyone because it's good for Ralph and it's good for every one of the employees to see this is how we treat everybody. So any last golden words from you, Leslie?
I think you said it beautifully.
I always do.
I think you said it great.
All right. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much for tuning into Bacon Bits with Master Happiness. Give me a day or so and then listen to the entire episode anywhere you listen to podcasts. Again, thank you, Leslie. Leslie, last time, where can we reach you?
Day HR Consulting, 630-251-3760.
Beautiful. All right. Again, thank you so very much. Everyone out there, have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.